Friends, in this video for ithought Advisor, I am going to talk to you on the topic caring for the small investor. Everybody believes that we must do more for the small investor. Regulation thinks that its entire effort is directed at the small investor. Growing investor participation means that we must bring in more small investors into the equity market. But in all of this, how much of what we have done in recent years actually cares for the small investor? If you look closely, a lot of what we are doing is not really working for the small investor. Take the millions of people who have come into the stock market post-COVID, during the lockdown, when they had nothing much to do, when they found the stock market to be an interesting new avenue to deploy their savings, to learn, to grow, what did they actually do? Look closely and you will see that we have created more speculators in the last 24 months than we have in the entire existence of SEBI, in the entire post-liberalization phase of our country. New investors, small investors coming into the stock market are all gravitating more towards option trading. This is the worst kept secret. But what caused this? In my opinion, what really caused this is the easy accessibility of such instruments through platforms. What we believed that platforms were meant to do was grow retail participation in mutual funds, in equity investments, in ETFs, in the safer parts of the market. Instead, what really has happened is that these technology engines have taught investors the wrong behavior, encourage them to do everything that is against their interest. The ability to transact easily should not lead to transacting wrongly. If you look at some of the platforms which offer only direct mutual funds, we have seen something very different happen out there. I thought that mutual funds is a safe place and platforms should be able to at least deliver a safe experience in mutual funds to the new retail investor. But what has really happened is something very different. A platform has a display window in which a few prominent funds are placed. In that display window, mostly we have seen the wrong kind of funds finding their way. In January this year, the amount of tech funds purchased on platforms is staggering. Last year, the amount of investment in Nasdaq funds is stunning. And in the early phase of COVID, the amount of investments done in Access Blue Chip is again a very high number. All these have happened through the platforms. So the front window of the platforms in mutual funds has also not really helped investors make informed choices. Now we can't really blame the platforms, but we still need to look closer as to what investors must get out of every way of investing. If an individual distributor had gone and distributed a thematic fund, then he would have had to answer a lot to various people as to why he did that. But does that apply to the platforms? Here, we have now come to a point where a lot of things happening on the platforms in mutual funds don't necessarily match the standards which we demand of the regular MFD ecosystem. And it's the worst kept secret. But why am I raising this? I am not raising this because the platforms are bigger than us or they're doing great or whatever, but because a truly investor-centric way of looking at it, all our work should look where more transactions are happening, should look where the bulk of the investors are going, so that place is sanitized, it is well regulated and it has proper oversight. I believe that whatever has happened both on the option trading side and on the mutual fund side in platforms is probably not what I would call as caring for the investor. Investors are going to end up with a very different experience, and we will see a lot of people in some kind of pain going forward. This is something which could have been avoided. This is something which could always be corrected, and we also need to find better ways of caring for the small investor. What can be a better way of caring for the small investor? This is where I think that we need to do more introspection. We need to create places where small investors learn investing. These should be digital. We should bring the small investor into the NISM. We should make him learn properly, extricate him from the web of webinars, paid learning and all sorts of YouTube related businesses. Bring him under a formal structure of learning which he can do digitally and help him find his own feet. This is something that we need to do. It's high time we do it, because with the clear decision that we want to grow the do it yourself universe, then it's important that the investor is given an ecosystem to learn and evolve. As for the RIA framework, it is my view, and I would hold it as my personal view, that RIAs do not have economics to work with small investors. The economics of working with a small investor is not something which an RIA can afford. Therefore, RIAs will, over a period of time, gravitate towards larger investors. There is no way an RIA can really serve small investors. We also have the restriction of 150 investors per individual RIA, which means that an RIA will always try to pack that list of 150 with bigger investors so that he would be able to at least earn enough to survive. So, the small investor is at the mercy of the platforms today and at the mercy of YouTube education, which teaches him to speculate. And someday or the other, we are all going to collectively be answerable to what is going on right now. So, it would be better to wake up before it's too late and regulate what goes on in the platforms more closely, because more people are there and more damage is happening there, to create a framework for who can speculate in the F&O segment, and to create an education vertical probably under NISM or any other body which has got credibility and which really gives investors learning that they can carry forward into their investing. If we don't do these three things, I believe that we are not going to be caring enough for the small investor. I think there is no point in blaming either the MFDs or the RIAs, because they don't have the economics or the bandwidth to do what small investor education and small investor hand holding demands at this moment. Thank you for watching this video.